Hello guys, welcome to another Plasticon thing. I've had a lot of questions here in the past about what I do when it comes to disassembling toys and fixing them. I have a few things here that I have not actually even attempted to try to take apart or even fix yet, but I just kind of want to go over some of the tools. One of the biggest things I get asked about, I'm going to have a few things rattling around here for a few minutes because I have tools in all different areas here. But some people ask me, well, what do you use to push pins out? And that's one of the big billion-dollar questions I get asked all the time. How do you disassemble some of these toys? I use precision screwdrivers. A lot of people are like, okay, well, yeah, some of those might actually work, and some do, depending on the diameter and such. Like, I don't really know the diameter of a lot of these, but I mean, this is obviously like a really long-handled precision screwdriver, and they're really sharp, by the way. Like, the tips of these things are fairly have a lot of pokiness, so if you stab yourself with it, you can easily stab yourself with it. I actually have a modified one here too, and this was kind of just grinded off. You can use a Dremel if you wanted to try to create your own little punch tool, but that's pretty much what I have here, and it's kind of handy because it's a screwdriver type of thing, so it actually gives you a little bit of grip to be able to like push pins out. A good example of that would be this is a knockoff Superion silver bolt here. This one I'm actually going to be disassembling and turning into a different character because I want to create my own, and I already did some kind of stuff here where I drilled a hole in the top. I removed the tail pin because I'm planning on doing a little bit of different stuff. But he actually has pins, and the pins are actually in the wing areas, like right here. So I don't know how well you're actually seeing that, but it's literally right there. That's the pin. So what I do is I take a pin pusher, that's what I call this, and kind of just push on it. And you can see it'll try to extract itself out of the back. Now sometimes, if I can't quite get it that way, I'll turn it the other direction to do this. Now I do know some people out there are like, okay, well, how do you get a pin out that you can't even really get to? See, I kind of pushed it out a little bit. It's still going to be kind of difficult to get out. But there are ways of doing that. You primarily have to have a super skinny screwdriver like I've got, and you can kind of push your way into it to get it to push out, and you have to kind of really work it just to get that to happen. And sometimes when you do this, it may kind of warp the plastic. You got to be very careful when you're doing this. But see, I haven't really gotten this pin here really to move much, and to be honest, when it comes to some of this stuff, it's kind of difficult to explain, because there'll be times that, say, this entire thing here, say I had like a tiny little gap, like a little teeny tiny gap, and you're able to get like right in front of that pin. If you're able to do that, you're able to kind of wedge your way in to be able to kind of work that pin out, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. And you have to use precision screwdrivers really to do any of this kind of thing. You can get what's called a pin pusher, and if you're lucky enough, like myself, because I've acquired a lot of tools throughout the years too, I have like files as well. Like, these are for modeling and doing stuff like that. You can actually find these in hobby stores. They're pretty much hobby files, and they really work real well when it comes to trying to push certain pins out. And I have to find one here that will actually work, because they come in all different sizes. Like, they got these that are kind of just flat. You got some that are kind of flat and straight like a normal file would be. Another thing I use is these little clips. These are actually little, these are used more in jewelry, but you know, these things kind of come in handy every now and then. This is actually spring loaded, and then I use some that are not sometimes. But I'm trying to dig around here and see what I've got. Happen to have some other precision screwdrivers like these will actually work very well if you can find some of those. It just really kind of depends on the project you're trying to work on, because I got a specific guy that actually asked me a question about a toy that I had did a custom to a long time ago. Unfortunately, dude, I don't have that toy on me. I am speaking to you directly if you're watching this. But the reason I don't have the toy anymore is because if you guys don't know this, I purged my collection quite a bit, and it's mainly because I just had way too much stuff, and it was getting overwhelming, and I really wasn't having fun with any of it, so I had to kind of just get rid of some stuff. But yes, I know I'm a huge Generation 2 guy, and I do love G2 a lot, but there are certain things, like I'm trying this one, this one's kind of narrow. Ow. And believe me, when you're pushing on these things, it hurts. Like, it'll leave a mark. But you know, it's one of those things, like, see, here we go. See how the pin's kind of sticking out now? I got it to finally work its way out a little bit. But, you know, it takes some patience. And the thing is when you work it out and you get it out just far enough, pull this thing back out. That way you're not stretching the hole in the plastic. It depends on the plastic too, because sometimes the plastics are really, really brittle and hard to work with. You just have to be gentle. You can't really ham on it, because if you ham on it, you're really going to mess something up. But since I got that pin out a little bit, I'm able to actually grab with a pair of needle nose, maybe, and then be able to work said pin out, just like that. So essentially what I did literally, I just shoved that thing right into the small hole here and just pushed it out. And see, I can do that exactly for the other side on that. It's not too difficult to do. One of the ones I'm actually currently working on is this little guy. I want to put his wheel back on, but his wheel's completely off, right? Well, the wheel is primarily came off because it's lost its pin. And I was digging through my junk thing and I found this, and I know it's teeny tiny, it's really hard to see, but it's a little pin. And part of the problem is this hole is a little too small for this pin, but this pin actually fits very well into this. Like I can do, earlier on I kind of pushed on it really hard and it really kind of stuck in there. So what I'm thinking I can do is take one of my files, like a round one. I'm telling you guys, these files are a lifesaver. Get them. They are very useful, especially when you get like round ones like this. See, it looks like I got kind of a mess going on here with tools. That's going to happen when you're doing this kind of thing. See, I found one here. This is a round one. It's got a really, really sharp tip to it. So it's kind of perfect to put in there. Kind of make that hole just a little bigger. And I'm just going to kind of work the file around the little tire part here. And it just kind of makes it sideways. It makes it a little easier for you to get the pin in there. And it'll also make it so that way it rolls really well too. But it requires a little bit of finesse. Because I mean, you can see I've obviously got it stuck on there. It's pretty good. And it's one of those things you have to kind of be mindful when you're doing this stuff. You have to be patient when you're doing it, because sometimes it just won't work like the best for you, you know. It's really one of those things that it just depends on the toy you're trying to fix. Like the guy, I think he's wanting to push out like a certain pin, and they are difficult to get to. Sometimes you have to take the whole toy apart just to get that one part out. I'm trying to see if this will actually drop in there. It almost does. Because you want to be able to just drop this thing into the hole. And then sometimes I'll just take like a normal screwdriver and really work it, and it will eventually make it so that way that hole isn't too big, but it'll actually work really well. And see, there we go. I can now spin it on this, and I'm going to spin it on here on purpose because I'm trying to get it to kind of clean up a little bit. And this is just replacing like a pin just to hold a tire on, but you can do this kind of to any GoBot, Transformer, some Hot Wheels stuffs like this. It's kind of a general overall type of thing. See, that pin felt right in there, so now I'll be able to attach it to the wheel. Now see, I'm like, okay, what do I do here? So I'm like, okay, do I ham it in there? How do I do this? Well, something I will do. Sometimes I'll even use my own tools as a way to brace something. And especially when it comes to older toys like this, sometimes you just have to be kind of patient on how you're doing it. I have everything all nice and lined up there. So I'll just take the end of these needle nose here and try to push that pin in to the hole. It didn't quite work. Not the way I wanted it to. See, I'm trying to just get it to really like stick in there. Sometimes I'll just take like another screwdriver, or maybe even like my punch tool that I made. Kind of push it in and work it into where it needs to go. It's not too difficult sometimes. And this might not even work at all. And if it doesn't work, then I'll try something else. I don't know if the pin may be long enough. It might be too short, actually. Because sometimes that could be the trial and error part. Because as you can see, it can actually hold in there. It's just trying to get this to actually fit, which I don't think it's going to, because I think it's a little too... I think the rim part of the tire is probably a little too thick for it. Maybe. But I don't know yet. Trying to see if maybe I can get that to work. It might not. So I'm going to take this and push this in, and then the pin's going to fall out on me, because you know that happens. See, patience, guys, patience. You know, I've only been doing this for 14 minutes now. And really a lot of it, like I said, it really depends on the toy you're trying to fix. It depends on how pristine you want things to be and all that type of thing. Yep, see, that pin's not going to work. It's just not long enough. So, do I have a backup? Yes, I've got backup. I have a whole bag of like old knockoff pieces and stuff, and sometimes I've got a few little tiny screws in there too. So sometimes a tiny screw will work. That's a itty bitty one, not a big one. See, tiny. And this won't fall through that hole either because it's clearly see, it's even a little too big for that. So what I'll do to make that work, I do have a broken one here. This broke off a long time ago on an old screwdriver I have, but you know, sometimes I actually use it for pushing things too. So it's crazy how certain things just work out. But let's see here. I use this big guy. Now I need to just kind of screw this thing into the hole. And then I'll screw it a few times, that way it kind of spins. And see how much further this in here sticks out, so this will probably work a lot better. So I'm trying to make it so that way I can actually spin the tire. So I'm even unscrewing it and screwing it, so that way it actually will spin. Now, I'm going to take this and screw this into the little hole here, which is just kind of a gentle thing you got to do. You can't be rough with this kind of thing. And the funny thing is like, okay, you look like, oh, well, you got one tire screwed on, the rest of them are not. Well, I'll be honest with you, does it really matter that if it's screwed on or if it's pinned on? Not really. Because now, look, I have a tire on there now that I didn't have. And the funny thing is I can spin this either way now. And it really just have to kind of work it back and forth a little bit just for it to roll. To see, I got another one over here that rolls pretty well, you know. So working it back and forth to the point that it'll actually roll. And see, the funny thing is it's not even sticking out here. So like when you do transform the guy, there's no part here sticking out. So you can even tell that it was actually screwed in there. So it's actually better than the original. And there you go. And it rolls pretty good. Not terrible. I think it'll work in even more when I get them playing with it a lot more, because, you know, pretty cool, huh? Not too terrible to fix toys. And that's the thing, it's just little tiny small things like this. Now some people ask me when it comes to fixing things that are broken, I suggest getting some of this. This is it's mainly for styrene, ABS, and plastic sheet stuff, but it's plastic weld. And this works very, very well with a lot of those kind of plastics, because what it does is it takes the plastics from a molecular level and actually fuses them. It works better than like like your standard model glue, which will actually work as well, and then you've got like your normal like super glue. But to be honest, this will actually hold things even a little better. This is good to get things started, but then when you get to a certain point, you kind of want to use this stuff so it like really adheres to plastic, so that way if it doesn't break in half. Now I've got a you know, your Generation 2 Electro if it falls apart. No, it won't, because that's such a molecular structure of plastic that is literally turning into powder. That's what's happening to that. So you've got that's happened to, I forget what Beast Wars figure it is, but I know there's the Megatron roller skate Rex from Transmetal. That one just disintegrates because of the gold plastic. Gold plastic's like really, really, really bad thing. Even in like older toys that have like a blue color, some of the blue plastic is the same way. And in Lego, like even the brown plastic kind of just disintegrates. It's just the molecular structure of it. And so if you think you can maybe coat it with plastic weld, I don't suggest doing that, because first off, it's going to melt your toy or whatever the heck you're trying to fix. First off, completely melt it if you're just coating it. This is mainly for fixing like joints or like heavy structural damage, like say you have a USS Flag and it's got like a cracked hull. This would be really good in order to try to fuse that back together, but you're going to fuse it in such a way on the back half that way you don't actually see where it's been fused together. And sometimes I've seen there's a guy out there I follow, his name is Toy Ploy, and he does a lot of toy fixes. This is primarily the stuff he uses for a lot of things, but he does use super glue and he uses mono glue. But this is just kind of like a little bit of an overall, just to show you all what I do. You guys probably ask what kind of paints I use. Well, I have acrylics that I use. I've also got, I think this is an oil-based. No, this is oil-based testers. I primarily use both oil-based and acrylic on a lot of my customs that I've done in the past. It's not something that I highly suggest you guys paying a whole lot of money for, but you know, I mean, I even went to Walmart and got the crafting acrylics and I use them just fine. It's just using that clear coat. I mean, I have a brush on clear coat here, just handy in my hand, but these brush-ons work okay. I do suggest y'all getting like an X-Acto knife kit just in case you need to actually cut anything or trim something off. These are good nippers for like getting rid of little bitty pieces of plastic that may be an issue when you're trying to fix a toy. But you know, there's times I'm like, okay, this guy, this is a knockoff, obviously. This function here doesn't even work. Well, this stupid little piece that's sticking up, I'm probably going to file that off. I'm going to get rid of that. But how am I going to do it first? Cut it off, just like this. Real simple. It's not hard. Now see, it's less of a nub there. And then I'll just take like a file or something like that and then just, you know, gently file it down, or use a sandpaper or whatever, you know, to kind of get rid of whatever's left of that particular nub. And I'm using this as an example. Like I said, this is going to eventually be a custom that I'm going to work on. And I'm just kind of rolling it because, you know, obviously it's an airplane. It's got a round fuselage, so. But you know, it's little stuff like this that's easy to manipulate, because I mean, just that little bit of stuff I've done there, I've already rounded it off quite a bit. That's not even like completely where I want it to be yet. But I hope this kind of helps you all, because, you know, I also have people who are like, okay, fixing chrome wire, like on this GoBot. He's got a lot of chrome wire right there on his tail. And to be honest, I'm debating, do I actually want to leave it chrome or do I want to color a different color? Well, that's where I break out. I use Sharpie. There's nothing wrong with Sharpie. I know some people out there use that chrome paint, and sometimes they have that chrome pen paint that works really well. Well, to to me, sometimes that works okay. But then again, I also have a real chrome colored silver there that works just fine. I've used a lot of these colors throughout the years on different projects, and it's worked very, very well. Sometimes I'll even rattle can, spray paint it, and then do whatever other details I plan on doing to it later. It's just one of those things I've learned in life that you have to kind of work with what you got. I don't have a whole lot of money, so I try to be very, very, very sparingful on how I do things. Another little thing I do, another little trick, is I use decals. I've got several decal sheets that I've bought throughout the years, and some of these I got off of eBay real cheap. Some people go to Toy Hacks and get all different kinds of stuff. Like I go to Toy Hacks to get a lot of my G2 emblems, because good luck trying to find these anywhere else but eBay or Toy Hacks, because you're not really going to find G2 emblems just floating out there in the middle of nowhere. Because there are times you'll find G1 stuff all over the place, but trying to find G2 or say your Predacons or Maximal emblems, any of those, you're not going to find any of those. GoBot emblems, good luck trying to find those. There's times that I've literally took a toy like this and changed it out just by using decals alone and a little bit of paint, and that's it. And it's just one of those things that I'll change things up on certain things because I enjoy creating new characters and maybe recreating certain characters. So some people out there are like, oh, I love that character. That character was awesome. What would it look like if he was like a smaller version or whatever, you know? It's cool to do that kind of thing. So that's something I really get into. It's just the toy world that I live in, and I love doing this kind of stuff. I know some of you guys out there are like, why you spend all that kind of time and money into creating things that don't even really exist? Well, you know, sometimes that is the nature of just enjoying toy collecting and being a nerd and creating your own world. So don't let anybody ever discourage you for creating anything that you want to make, because that is what the world really is about, is just creativity and inspiring others. I mean, I've got a big project coming up with this guy here, and I'm really excited to do this. I know some of you guys are like, oh, that looks like Scourge. Well, it's not going to be Scourge when I'm done with it. It's going to be much cooler than that, as far as I'm concerned. Anyhow, this has been Plasticon. This has been a little thing talking about customization, using paint pens, using markers, any type of tool that I possibly have at my own disposal. I mean, I have a lot of tools, mainly because I've collected a lot of this stuff throughout the years. I mean, you have any idea how old some of these are? Some of these I've probably had for at least 15, 20 years. I mean, come on. Look at the state of my pliers. Like, these things have been around ages. And these actually still have, like, the soft stuff. I mean, these things try to come off, but it is what it is. Anyhow, like I said, you guys ever want to get into customizing, it's one of those things that's kind of hard to get into unless you are willing to invest a little bit of time and money into getting different bits and pieces in order to start creating things. And sometimes you're going to end up with a bag of just, I don't know what I'm going to do with, laying around. Don't throw it out. Put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in a drawer somewhere. You never know, you might end up finding that one toy, like I did, that needed a wheel fixed. So, anyhow, this has been Plasticon. This is a little quick demo of some of the stuff that I do, and hopefully that pin pushing thing kind of gave you guys a little bit of an idea. And just one more thing about the pin push thing. I know you guys, some of you guys might have turned it off by now, but if you look at pins, usually they're not like this where they're smooth on both ends. Normally they're serrated, much like this thing. I'm going to try to put this on needle nose pliers so I can actually show you guys really what I'm talking about. You see how that edging there has got a little bit of like bite to it? That's usually how a lot of pins are. You have to find the source. Usually what happens is there's only one way the pin pushes in. There's only one way to get it out, and you'll look and you just see like a tiny little gap where that pin and the plastic is. When you're going to kind of push against that pin, because what's happening is it's got the serrated part on the end that you have to kind of work out. Once you work that part of the pin out, you get your needle nose pliers on there and kind of work it back and forth just a little bit, just a little wiggle, and then pull straight out. You pull out sideways or something, you're going to probably crack something and break it, and then you're going to be very upset with yourself because you ruined a toy that you potentially were trying to fix. But anyhow, this has been Plasticon. This is me done rambling about trying to fix things that, you know, are sometimes a pain. That's it for now. Bye. Peace out, y'all.